I've now moved to a high point of our property. It has a really beautiful view that you can't see because what I'm showcasing behind me is this black birch stand. So this is the next tree that I'm going to talk about, and I'm drinking black birch tea just to make the whole effect very full. So ecologically, this tree is really important because black birch, Betula lenta is the botanical name. Black birch is a tree species that is what you would call a first successional tree. So, what that means is that black birches are one of the trees that are the first to colonize an area, either a field that's going to become a forest or an opening or a clear cut. Black birch will come in and set seed and start growing and make the way for the future forest to form there. And another thing that it does to aid in the sort of progression into a mature, rich forest is that black birches are what you would call a dynamic accumulator, meaning that they dig down really deep with their roots and pull up nutrients that are not as accessible for other plants or other trees, especially, and then make that more bioavailable in the soil, either by, both through bringing it up with their roots and putting it in the soil, but then also they retain that nutrients and then drop it down with their leaves and sort of make the soil more rich so that trees that are less able to just come in and colonize an area really quickly have more capacity and more nutrients to set seed and start growing and proliferate there. And so black birch is native to North America, but it's native to northern boreal forests across the globe, across the northern hemisphere. So it has a rich history in so many different cultures, herbally and ritualistically, mystically, spiritually, all of those different things. For that reason, it's one of my favorite trees. It's one of our great scratch and sniff trees that I was talking about. So if you take a little twig like this one here and scratch off the outer bark, which is very thin because it's a small twig, and give it a sniff, it has this really amazing, bright, vibrant wintergreen flavor, like the smell of root beer, and it has that taste too. So, um, yeah, so that's how you identify it. Also, it has very silvery bark that has these very distinct lines and dots on them. And all trees have those, but there are certain trees where that's very sharp and distinct and a way to identify them. So black birches have those lenticels, and those are basically like breathing gas exchange pathways for the tree so that the trunk is able to breathe and do all those things that live beings do. Um, so just to like backtrack a little bit, in a lot of cultures, black birch has great significance as this kind of uh, energy of like new beginning and uh, the way shower. And you see that in Irish, Scandinavian, Native American culture and the way that it's used both for different things like the black birch or potentially the black birch. Birches in general have been traditionally used as the maypole, or used as sort of like cleansing fires. And that use ritually is also similar to how it's used medicinally. Black birch is a great spring tonic, it's a great detoxifier. It is a lymphatic, and it's also a circulatory stimulant, but it has this nice cooling aspect to it rather than a warming circulatory stimulant, which makes it, unique from using something like white pine. Uh, the wintergreen flavor and scent is produced by this chemical component called methyl salicylates. And similar to salicylic acid, methyl salicylates are anti inflammatory and pain relieving. So, black birch has often been used as sort of a digestive aid to um, quell like pain and inflammation in the digestive tract and in the stomach. And also, it's a little astringent, so it helps with diarrhea and that kind of thing. I personally like black birch best in either tea, or sometimes I will add it to like a vinegar and oxymel. I love to put it in a spring vinegar along with all my other spring cleansers and detoxifiers, because as I was talking about with it providing nutrients for the forest around us, it also provides nutrients to us and makes those nutrients bioavailable for us when we extract it and eat it and use it internally for ourselves. So added to a spring tonic, you can get those lymphatic detoxification aspects, because the lymph system is what helps us um, get rid of toxins in our bodies, and then those added nutrients. Part of detoxification is really getting a lot of nutrient density in our bodies. So I really like it in there with things like nettle or dandelion, violets, maybe horsetail. Sometimes I put in there, or like lilac flowers. Yeah, all those wonderful things. But it's also a great external remedy. You could use it as a wash, like a tea wash, or extract it in alcohol. I rarely do that. Mostly what I do is extract it in oil, and it retains that nice scent in the oil. And then I like to use that for external stimulation. As I said, that it's a circulatory stimulant, but it's nice externally because of that cooling aspect. You can use it on things that don't want to be warmed, maybe like someone who has a bit of like a warmer, hot constitution that doesn't need more warmth or heat, or maybe something like aggravated, hot, arthritic conditions. You could rub it externally on those. And yes, as I said, I love it the most in tea. So this tea, it forms this great like golden orange, really just like when you cut into it, it's yellow, but the thin bark has this like golden brown oranginess to it, and you really capture that in the tea. And so with barks and tree medicines, needles too, you don't want to do just like a pour the hot water over kind of thing like you would do with a tea bag. You'd want to do a decoction, and so that's what I do with these. And I'm showcasing this stand specifically because this, I think, is sort of a great example of that, like first successional colonization. Like this was definitely an empty zone. It's a really young woods right here, even younger than where I was before with that white pine. And obviously so many black birch seeds just set seed and are growing here, and so there's all these like tons of these saplings. It goes on for a while, and you'll see interspersed some gray birches, um, which are much lighter in color. Black birches are sort of like a darker silvery color, and yeah, so for decoction, that's what I was talking about. Decoction, you would just take, because there's so many of these small trees, I would just take like little branches of the thin twigs, and no need to take off the outer bark, and just chop them up, cover with water, and let it simmer and kind of cook in the water for 20 minutes, 10 to 20 minutes. It doesn't need to be really, really strong, but and then you'll really get all those different nutrients, the volatile oils, the methyl salicylates, and the really nice wintergreeny flavor. Black birch was a traditional component of root beer originally, so you can also make homemade root beer. And another amazing thing, so a little bit after maple syrup season, you can make black birch syrup by tapping a larger birch than this. There are some bigger black birches in our woods too. You can tap them, and they will produce sap. It's a different ratio. You'll need more sap to boil down to make syrup than with maple syrup. Maple syrup is like 40 to 50 gallons to make a gallon, 40 to 50 gallons of sap to make a gallon of syrup. With black birch, you'd probably need like more like 75, I think, or it could be the opposite, but you can do it. And then you'll have that sweet nutrient dense syrup that has that really lovely wintergreen flavor. So those are all different ways to experiment with your black birch. And I have had it in tincture. Actually, someone gave me a really nice muscle relaxing tincture once, like a pain relieving muscle relaxing tincture that had black birch tincture with it and with pedicularis, and it was really awesome. But I definitely prefer it as tea or as oil.